to the channel. Winter is coming, and today, episode 5 of our Winds of Winter primer, it's House Greyjoy. There are several members of House Greyjoy still alive, but let's deal with a few of the ones that aren't anymore. So let's start with Roderick and Maren Greyjoy. They both died during the Greyjoy rebellion that was put down. They died in different battles, but they both were casualties of that war. And Uryn Greyjoy died when he was a teen. Now, we know he was abused by Uryn Greyjoy, as was Victorian when they were younger. Next up, Balon Greyjoy. So the long-term head of the house, we know he's dead. He died in a storm on the bridge at Pike. Now, it is heavily assumed that Uryn actually did murder Balon, and that kind of coincided with his reappearance into the storyline. And yeah, it really set Uryn up as being a real bad guy, you know, in the books. So that really brought around the Kingsmoot. And Uryn Greyjoy, the priest of the drowned god, he is, you know, he is a very influential character, a long-term advisor to the head of House Greyjoy. He is one of the older brothers, and he was also, you know, he doesn't like Uryn. He was treated poorly by Uryn as well. He didn't really want to have Uryn crowned, but he had to stick to the rules. He is a long-time supporter of his brother Victorian. He does believe Victorian should have been the ruler of Iron Islands. And yeah, he is currently going to ground. He is being chased and harassed by, you know, members of Uryn's fleet. They are trying to capture him so they can kind of keep control of the Iron Isles while they're on a campaign against the Red Wines. Next up, Victorian Greyjoy. So he's a character I'm really interested in. He has clearly got a very scarred past. He does not like his brother Uryn at all. He thinks he is a sorcerer and a kind of a bad guy. He likes to drink too much and wear his armor on a ship, which is ill-advised. He is currently on his way to Meereen to try and win the hand of Daenerys Targaryen and offer her a fleet in kind of exchange. He took 1/3 of the Iron Fleet with him to cross to Meereen. Now, he's had a bad time of it. He had an infected hand. He's taken on a priest of kind of, you know, of Valor. We're seeing a very weird side of Victorian at the moment. He is obviously very devoted to the drowned god, but he is also now using Valor or Priest of Valor to help him in his quest to get to Meereen and win Daenerys over. Is he going to get his own back on Uryn? Really, I hope certainly that he has a one-on-one showdown similar to the Hound and the Mountain. Are we going to see Victorian versus Uryn? I certainly hope so. So for sure, he does seem like he should have been the legitimate ruler of the Iron Isles. So I do kind of support him in that. Now let's talk about Uryn. So Uryn, he is, you know, he is a sorcerer, or at least he is dabbling in the dark arts. He is currently in the Red Wine Straits, fighting the Red Wine Fleet, trying to win favour on all sides at the moment, trying to install himself as the rightful king of the Iron Isles. But he's got his eyes set a little bit higher. He's playing both sides of the fence. He has sent Victorian to try and offer a marriage proposal to Daenerys. Little does he know, well, he probably suspects, to be fair, because he's put a couple of spies on board Victorian's ship, but he does expect a little bit of treachery from his brother, but he does believe he can dominate him still, kind of mentally and psychologically, into doing what he wants. Yeah, I don't think Daenerys is going to marry Uryn, probably not Victorian either, but it's a very interesting storyline. The two brothers, I'm sure, will meet at some point for a showdown. Next up, ASA Greyjoy. So she was last seen marching with Stannis' army, and unfortunately she looks like a prime candidate to be burned to Valor as a sacrifice to try and help their campaign to take Winterfell. Let's hope not, because she has just been reunited with her brother. So let's talk about Reek for a minute. Theon Greyjoy has had a real hard time of it. We saw him plunging from the battlements with Jenny Paul. He did escape. He is now met up with his sister. He's with Stannis' army, but they're in a real bleak spot with talk of cannibalism. They've been snowed in. The Iron Bank has come along. That's a really interesting storyline as well. Probably one we'll have to cover in our big theories episode we'll do. But yeah, I think Theon and ASA Greyjoy being together again is a really nice point, a nice way to end those last couple of books that we read. And it's going to be interesting to see what part they play, because let's not forget, A lot of people in the Great Northern Conspiracy aren't exactly fans of Greyjoys at the moment. We all remember what happened at Winterfell. We all remember all the raiding, Moat Cailin. And yeah, so it's gonna be a bit of a touchy subject, and they're in a real sticky spot there. But let's be honest, they're good guys. We're all rooting for them. Let's hope they get a really nice outcome in the Winds of Winter. Right, next week, what we're gonna do is a house roundup. So we'll talk about, the Martells and the Hightowers and the Tyrells, House Aaron. There's so many houses we haven't covered yet. So please come back for episode 7. It's going to be a really interesting one where we wrap up all of the houses, the big houses, the interesting ones that still have chips in the game. We'll talk about some of those characters we haven't covered so far. There are many characters to get through, so it may be a bit of a longer episode, but I'll see you next week.